This is New Mexico Frontiers, presented by Veris Research.
Well, welcome back to another episode of New Mexico Frontiers. We are sitting down with the CEO and president of the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce Foundation, Mr. Rob Leming. Rob, great to have you back.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
So today we're talking about kind of a really big topic, a new report that's come out that's kind of shown where New Mexico stands economically in terms of workforce and competitiveness, and we're going to break that down today. But before we jump into what we've seen from this report, I just kind of want to ask you a little bit about the foundation's role in helping position New Mexico in terms of, being economically competitive and how you support the chamber through your advocacy work.
Yeah, so the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce Foundation is the 501c3 charitable nonprofit arm of the Chamber of Commerce, where our work is to strengthen New Mexico by empowering people and communities through research, education, and programs that build talent, innovation, and economic prosperity. So what we look at is a lot of data-driven research, such as the report that you mentioned, and that lays out some actionable steps that leaders, elected officials, community leaders can follow to increase economic prosperity across New Mexico.
A blueprint of sorts.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is something we want, okay? And the foundation's been around for 5 years, yes? Started in 2020. You've seen a ton of growth in that 5 years, a tremendous amount, actually. I want to know how your background in economic development, politics, statewide collaboration, how is this positioning the foundation's vision to maybe have real-world progress here in New Mexico?
Yeah, so my first career was in electoral politics here in New Mexico. I did that for about a decade, and that type of work revolves around building community and engaging with community. Getting your finger on the pulse of what people are thinking about and what people are wanting. And when you work with so many diverse people across the state, from the local level all the way to the federal level, you get to see so many elements of how these pieces fit together to build a better society. And that's really what we want at the end of the day. And our society is built by people. And that's why our work is focused on empowering people and communities to drive that innovation, talent, and economic prosperity.
Yeah, I think that's a great way to look at it, right? We are built by a community of people, right? So making sure that things are beneficial for them. The foundation had a report in 2020, this competitiveness kind of report. We have a new one now here in 2025. And I want to know just how this new report has changed in terms of focus, vision, scope, and just kind of what this means in terms of where we're at economically and for the workforce.
Right. So in 2020, our initial report identified some key elements of economic competitiveness, a business climate, innovation capacity, infrastructure, and workforce development. And those pillars still remain as the primary pillars that we need to look at to improve economic competitiveness. But right now, New Mexico is at an inflection point. We have a lot of risk in our current economic environment. We have a lot of reliance on energy and tourism and federal dollars that go into our national labs. And those are key elements that we want to see continue well into the future. However, if there are abrupt changes in the economic environment, we're at great risk of seeing a decline in our prosperity. And so what we need to do is diversify into new emerging industries. So quantum computing has a long history here in New Mexico. That's one industry that we're looking at expanding. Advanced energy, so new energy technology, new sources of generation, storage, and grid upgrades. And we're looking at space, aerospace, and defense, which is also an emerging industry. We have Spaceport America here in New Mexico, which is a huge asset that we can leverage even further, and advanced manufacturing, which permeates all of those different industries and has a lot of opportunity for workforce development primarily. So we're really looking at jobs that we can create for people to achieve prosperity.
A lot of opportunities out there, it sounds like, too.
A ton, to say the least. You guys, you do all these studies and this research, right? And you guys end up working with policy leaders, people that are going to enact policy changes here. Turning data into action, that's my next question for you. How are you guys doing that?
So a lot of it is strategic planning, but more importantly, it's strategic doing. We have to build a community that has the will to see these things through. We can't just think about it and make a plan and then put it on the shelf for years and then never look at it. We have to actually do what we say that we're going to do. And that's where the action and impact of our work comes into play, where I think for many years, at least from my perspective, there's a lot of back and forth about what's the best way to do it. We need to study the best way to do it. But I think that we need to focus a little bit more on taking the initiative for that action. And maybe our first idea isn't the best idea, but we will at least set a foundation of knowledge that is going to propel us into the future. And that body of knowledge is something that we're looking to create at the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce Foundation. And that is a community of knowledge that we build so that we have a resource and deep library of knowledge that people can draw on to think what is best for my community. How can I use this knowledge to impact my community? And that's where we have to work together in that collaboration, and it takes all of us to do that.
It seems like such a simple concept, but yeah, following through with what you say you're going to do, being that starting point, and then hopefully being that space, that resource for other entities to come to and then learn from what you guys have done to benefit their community. We're kind of winding down here in 2025, looking ahead to 2026, and it might be a far off question, but what does success look like at the end of the next year for you guys? Just, how are you and your partners at the foundation know that the research is moving us forward?
Well, I'd like to see a broader public understanding of economic impacts. And a lot of the issues that we talk about on a day-to-day basis, such as public safety and education, are key economic indicators. A lot of people just separate the economy from education or public safety, but they are inherently intertwined. And I think if we can get our knowledge out there to a degree that many leaders are talking with their constituents about what is important, they can start drawing those lines between each of these connected factors and then develop those solutions. So I think a broader community is something that I would see as a huge success at the end of 2026, where we have a unified approach to economic prosperity, where there isn't divisiveness, there isn't competition. We have abundance here in New Mexico, and a lot of folks just don't see that, but it is there, and that's the truth, and the data supports that. So if we can look at the facts and accept that and move forward with that knowledge, that's the way that we're going to see progress.
An absolute great segue into my next question, because there are several organizations in New Mexico, they conduct research on workforce competitiveness, just like you guys. I want to talk about collaboration versus competition. You're more on the collaborate side as opposed to compete against these other organizations. You want to collab with them. Talk to me about that.
Yeah, so I think there's a scarcity mindset. I talked a little bit about that before, where a lot of folks want to propel their organization, and there's a lot of good work being done, and we should be doing that. But the problem is the siloed nature of it. I think we need to start pooling our resources, and then we can see an outsized impact. We will scale our impact in a number of areas by working together even more closely. And something that I've learned in the couple of years that I've been at the Chamber Foundation, as I go around the state to Roswell, to Las Cruces, to Santa Fe, there's a lot of organizations that are working on the same problems, but we're seeing a separation of these resources. And if we can bring these things together, I think in a regional way, we can consolidate those resources for bigger impact, much bigger impact.
Yeah, we're all in this together.
All in this together, and beautiful things come from collaboration when you have multiple entities willing to sit down and have a real conversation about how to propel New Mexico to the space that we deserve to be in, which is amazing. Rob, my final question for you, maybe this is a personal answer, or maybe the foundation has a mission behind it, but beyond the numbers that we're seeing, what do you hope this research that we're kind of have broken down today, what do you hope it inspires across New Mexico communities, classrooms, and various industries?
I hope it inspires a sense of relationship building and trust. And I think that New Mexico is a very tight-knit state. No matter where you live in New Mexico, people are very proud to be New Mexicans, and that's certainly true for me. And I think by understanding this data, we can really get a sense of unified pride in what opportunities exist and start changing the narrative about lack of opportunity or lack of progress, because I really think that this inflection point that we are at right now is a pivotal moment. And if we can come together to trust one another, that we have each other's interests in mind, then that would be a success to me, huge success.
We say it all the time, be proactive, not reactive, and that's really what you guys are doing here, being proactive so we can propel New Mexico into the future. It's a beautiful thing to see. Rob Leming, President and CEO of the New Mexico Chamber of Commerce Foundation, thank you so much for sitting down with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for watching this latest episode of New Mexico Frontiers. You can catch all the other episodes on our YouTube channel or the KRQE Now app.
Thank you so much for watching.